Noise Radio. Powered by the Connecticut School of Broadcasting. All Noise Radio is an internet radio station that's fully produced by graduates of the Connecticut School of Broadcasting. From modern rock to old school hip hop, country to classical, news, talk, sports, and more. It's the noise you can't ignore. Log on to allnoiseradio.com. Fire up the station. Find out more about your favorite jocks. Get the latest CSB news and more. Plus, you can take All Noise Radio with you on the go for free. Just download the Live 365 app to your iPhone, iPod Touch, or BlackBerry and search All Noise Radio. Check out tomorrow's broadcasters today at allnoiseradio.com. Powered by the Connecticut School of Broadcasting.
Sit back down and shut your trap. It's time for
Keeping It Sports with M3, right here on All Noise Radio.
Are you ready?
Are you ready?
Well, I'll need some beer.
Are you ready?
You have to ask me nicely.
Come on now, don't be bashful.
Are you ready? Are you ready for
Place for the best sports talk and news surrounding each league.
I can prove it with my usual flawless logic.
Hey man, this time we're gonna do it my way.
What's your name again?
And now, here's your host, M3, Mike Rosansky. Coming to you from Cherry Hill, New Jersey. It's time for Keeping It Sports with M3, powered by the Connecticut School of Broadcasting. Good afternoon, everyone. Hope everything's going well for you here on this Monday, the 16th day of September. How y'all feeling out there? Hope you all enjoyed your weekend. Hope you're all in a little bit better mindset than I am right now. I'll just leave it at that for now as far as what I'm talking about there. But a lot to get to over this next hour or so here on the podcast. So remember, as always, if you're watching the podcast live and you feel like calling in, you may do so at 856-330-4749. That's 856-330-4749 is the number to call in. As always, if whether you're listening to the podcast version or watching this live, you can find the podcasts at facebook.com/Keeping It Sports with M3 and follow us on Twitter at Keeping It Sports. You know, driving in today, there was really one thought on my mind. You know, watching what's going on in the landscape here right now of New York sports. With the fact that we're still several weeks away from the NBA getting started, about a month away from the NHL getting started. A lot of high hopes when it comes to the Brooklyn Nets, Knicks. It's still about developing, and the hockey teams. You know, it's kind of a crapshoot. One year you can be good, one year you can be bad, as we've seen with the Devils the last 2 years, and the Rangers have been the last couple of years kind of a rebuilding club. But with what we've seen so far from the two football teams in this area, the Giants and the Jets, we better pray that the New York Yankees have a deep run in October for all of us to watch. Because otherwise, until the NBA gets started, we'll have nothing to watch in this area, nothing to talk about. Because as of right now, we have two, not one, but two bad football teams playing at MetLife Stadium in East Rutherford, New Jersey. One of which I will be going to watch them live tonight at 8:15 on Monday Night Football as the Jets play the Cleveland Browns. They're a 6.5-point underdog in that game. And let's see, they're without C.J. Mosley. They're without Avery Williamson, who's been out with a torn ACL since second game of the preseason. They're without Quentin Williams, the number 3 overall draft pick. And oh yeah, they're without their quarterback, Sam Darnold, who has mono. and is out until who knows when. I can't trust any of the reports. Well, 1 minute yesterday I'm seeing a report that, he can miss up to 7 weeks. Then an hour later I'm seeing a report that, Sam's starting to feel better. He could be back by week 5. Who knows what to believe in this media cycle, this news cycle these days. I'm not a doctor. I can't tell you. Just, we're going to have to wait and see on the return of Darnold there. And then you add in the X factor, the storyline, the off-field storyline of the war of words with Odell Beckham Jr. and Jets defensive coordinator Greg Williams, who I understand that they have to, by league rule, require the coordinators to meet with the media once a week. But after Odell's comments on Thursday, in which he's calling Greg Williams out for some of his past discretions and bringing up that preseason game from 2 years ago in which Odell felt the Browns went out of their way to intentionally injure him, shouldn't you coach the guy up a little bit to know what to talk about? Because obviously he's not great with a microphone in front of his face if he's going to be saying Odell who, and there's no one laughing at that. That could be just a flat out disaster. And I've been in all gloom and doom thought about the Jets all weekend long, especially with all the injuries they have and the upcoming schedule that they have with, the Browns tonight. Next week they got to go play the Patriots, and the Patriots are only averaging 38 points a game after yesterday's shutout against the Dolphins. They get their bye in week 4, which is ridiculous. Anybody having their bye in the first month of the season, it's just an insane idea by the NFL. Followed by going to Philly to play the Eagles, who they've never beaten in the history of their franchise. A home game against the Dallas Cowboys, in which half of MetLife Stadium will be filled with their miserable fan base. And then in week 7, a Monday night football matchup against the New England Patriots at home. That really raises the spirit right there. That's showing, the season's going well. Now, I shouldn't get myself all aggravated about this because they haven't even played yet today. But I said this over the weekend. The Jets are the Murphy's Law team of the NFL. If you don't know what Murphy's Law is, it's what can go wrong will go wrong. And that's what the Jets are. I don't care what team you want to throw out there. The Cleveland Browns, the Detroit Lions, the San Diego Chargers. None of them have had as bad luck and much misfortune as the Jets over the years. And then there's the New York Giants. The New York Giants, who are off to an 0-2 start in their own right after yesterday's disappointing loss in their home opener to the Buffalo Bills, of all teams, 28-14. The Bills shows you that teams believe in superstitions in sports. The fact they stayed in the same hotel and stayed in the same hotel rooms. Even got to leave some of their stuff in the visitors' locker room at MetLife Stadium. Now, just like last week, it looked like it was going to be a good start for the Giants here. A good day. They get off to an early 7-0 lead. Saquon Barkley's running the ball down the field with seemingly ease. It looks like it's going to be a game plan built around Barkley with all the issues you have at wide receiver, with the fact that you're still without Golden Tate. You're without Sterling Shepard, who's got a concussion. So it's Saquon, it's Evan Ingram, and then a bunch of guys that they picked off the street. Literally, I mean, TJ Jones, they cut after training camp. They brought him back this week because they needed another wide receiver on the team to fill out the roster. And after the first drive, things went kind of how you would have expected them. Even though the Bills don't have as high-power offense as what the Giants faced last week in Dallas, they showed that that they can pick apart the weaknesses of the Giants' defense. And the defense is the biggest problem here I look at with this team. A lot of people bring up, Eli and the fact that he had barely a 50% completion percentage yesterday. He threw 2 interceptions, but look at these 2 interceptions. One was when they were down 21-7 in the final minute of the half. And Ed Oliver sticks his hand up, tips the ball right into Trent Murphy's hands at the Bills' 21-yard line. It seemed like Eli was having tip passes for most of this game. And the second one was late in the game. They're down by 2 scores with only 4 minutes left. Eli's trying to get the ball down the field quickly, and he throws a 50-yard pass that Jordan Poyer was able to pick off at the Bills' 2-yard line. So, I mean, yeah, you don't like to see the interceptions. Eli has been one of the more unlucky quarterbacks in the league in recent years when it comes to interceptions, but I can't put this all on him, especially when you have a defense that gives up close to 400 yards to a team that is known for their defense, known for running the football, and they're not going to take a lot of deep shots down the field. And look at the guys that Josh Allen has to work with at wide receiver. John Brown, who's been on a couple different teams over the last 3 years. They got the little wide receiver from Dallas, who's Cole Beasley. That added him over the off season. He's your typical check down wide receiver. So it's not like you got a Julio Jones or Odell Beckham type wideout on the outside. And the problem is, you look at this defensive scheme that the Giants are running out there, where they've got Jabril Peppers, who's supposed to be a safety, out there at times playing linebacker. You got your corners, including the young kid you drafted, Baker. He's playing, instead of playing the style he was in college where he was a press corner, they got him 10 yards off the line of scrimmage. I mean, almost a mirror of what the Jets see on a weekly basis from Tremaine Johnson. I mean, and that there's no adjustments along the way where you're seeing, they're not taking deep shots down the field, but we got everybody back in coverage, and we're just going to let them catch these easy 5-yard dunk downs or slant patterns across the middle of the field. Just, it's ridiculous. And then you watch as the Giant offense with Pat Shurmur on, and the fact that he's not getting the ball enough to Saquon Barkley. Saquon Barkley is even yelling at him in the second half. I mean, he's feeding him the ball in the first half. Barkley has 61 yards in the first quarter, had just over 40 in the remaining 3 quarters. And I get it, the Bills, they realize that, with the weakness that they got at wide receiver, we'll focus most of our attention now on Barkley and take him out of the game and force these other guys. Listen to these wide receivers that Eli had to work with yesterday. The aforementioned TJ Jones, Benny Fowler, who had a couple of drops yesterday, Cody Lattimore, Cody Core. Cody Lattimore, who's now in concussion protocol. I mean, these are the guys that you want on your practice squad, not playing in regular season games for you. So you got Shermer not getting the ball to Saquon Barkley enough. You got a defense who's not getting any form of pass rush on Josh Allen. And even when they do, he's able to elude it with his ability to run. That's why guys like that, you got to have a spy on them at all times. You got corners who can't cover anybody, and maybe that's being a little bit harsh because Baker's just a rookie. Now you've got Jack Rabbit, Janoris Jenkins, starting issues in the locker room where he's calling out the lack of pass rush with these comments yesterday saying, who can cover somebody for 10 seconds? Go look at it within the first 5 seconds on the route. He's not open. If he scrambles, we ain't got no pressure. What you want me to do? I can't cover this side and that side. Come on, bro. We got to play football around here. Now, first of all, I can't believe I just read that all off to you. And secondly, he's got a point. Without a pass rush, eventually, if the quarterback has enough time in the pocket there or is able to scramble around, somebody's going to get open. But he's as well not just calling out his teammates, he's calling out the organization. And how can you blame anyone calling out this organization right now with the head coach who, every time Pat Shurmur talks to the media, feels like he's giving the eulogy at a funeral. He's just so depressing to hear speak. He does circles around his words all the time. Like after the game, he's talking about how, it's not the time to make a change at quarterback. And now today, he won't completely commit to Eli Manning being the starting quarterback this Sunday against the Buccaneers. So who knows what to believe there. You got a defensive coordinator who's playing guys out of position, including playing Jabril Peppers, who's a safety at linebacker on certain plays, just so they can get guys on the field. It's and with Jenkins now calling people out, and this also goes to the general manager, Dave Gettleman. Dave Gettleman was all big this offseason of getting some of these guys out of the locker room because he claimed they had a culture problem, and most of that was directed at Odell Beckham. How the hell do you keep Janoris Jenkins around and his big mouth, who, as we know, last year pretty much gave up on the season? And we've seen outside of his first year with the Giants, the effort that he's given while wearing the blue and white. It's a mess right now with the New York Giants. And has Eli played well? No. I'm not going to sit here. I'm not going to lie to you and say that Eli has played well. Right now, if you're going to list what he is as a quarterback in this league, he's a stabilizing quarterback. He's a starting quarterback that's a stabilizer. He's not the guy anymore that is going to lead you in the fourth quarter comebacks like he used to back when they were winning Super Bowls. No, he's a guy that you can put out there as your starter and hopefully keep things calm, keep it from turning into a complete train wreck, keep the team competitive until they have a better option. But how are you going to keep him competitive with this team? How are you going to keep him competitive with a defense with no pass rush, with corners that can't cover, with wide receivers that they're picking out of the stands, especially with this Fowler guy who's dropping balls left and right? How are you going to keep them competitive when they can't even use their best weapon, Saquon Barkley, to his fullest extent because the opposition is shutting him down after the first quarter? So, yeah, he hasn't played well, but this is not his fault. But we all know where this is going. We all know that at some point this year, Eli is going to have to take a seat for Daniel Jones. It sucks. It's going to be a tough pill to swallow for Eli's career, especially with all the losing they've done in recent years. His career record is now at 116-116. Now, he's a 500 quarterback. Even with the fact he's got 2 championships on his resume, he's also got being a 500 quarterback on his resume. And it would be something that stings for him if he falls under 500 for his career and isn't able to do anything about that, isn't able to improve that record. But this Giants team, it's not about this year. It's about the future. This false sense of hope, this false bill of goods that the organization tried to send you during the offseason. Oh, the Kansas City model. We're going to win and rebuild at the same time. Please, come on. Anyone who is buying that is just absolutely insane, absolutely out of their mind. I mean, Dave Gettleman, he sits there when he talks to you, unlike Shermer, who, as I said, it's like hearing your eulogy. When Gettleman speaks, it's like he's talking down to you, acting like he created the wheel, acting like he created the game of football, and he's teaching all of us how it's supposed to go. Instead, he's got a lot to learn because he made draft pick. He drafts a quarterback at 6 when he could have drafted the outside linebacker Josh Allen, with Daniel Jones still probably sitting there at pick number 17. And now he's sitting here with a mess of a team, with a fan base that's wondering, what the hell did you put together here? And when are we going to see our young quarterback who's hopefully the future of our franchise? You look at the upcoming schedule here. They go play the Tampa Bay Bucks this Sunday, followed by home games against the Redskins and the Vikings. And then match up on Thursday Night Football against the New England Patriots before they have 10 days off before their next game. That's probably, in my mind, the next time, the time where they make this change. Although Shermer made no commitments to Eli for this week, I don't think they're going to make that quick a change that quickly. Because remember, this is not just a decision by the general manager and the head coach. Yes, this decision will define their careers as members of the New York Giants. Their legacy is whatever Daniel Jones does. He's their meal ticket whenever he takes over. But this is also a decision that I feel that John Mara's unfortunately going to play a part in, that he's going to have a say in whenever they make this change. As well as when you go to Daniel Jones, there's no turning back. You make that decision, it's a franchise-altering shift. It's Daniel Jones' team. There's no, Daniel Jones is playing bad for 3 weeks. Let's go back to Eli to finish the season. No. The second that you put Daniel Jones in there as your starting quarterback, unless there's some kind of injury, the Eli Manning era is over. It's just a matter of when they decide it's over. All right, a lot left to get to over the next about 40 minutes or so here. Go through the rest of week 2, recap some of these games, some crazy finishes across the league, as well as some injuries, a possible retirement coming up today. Get some thoughts on baseball in here. I'll look at the NL and AL wildcard standings, as well as the remaining games that each of these teams have left, and why last night could have been the nail in the coffin for the New York Mets season. So a lot left to get to here. Remember, if you're watching live and you feel like calling in, be sure to do so at our phone line, 856-330-4749. It's 856-330-4749. Now, please, sit back, relax. Hell, put your feet up on the table. Enjoy your Monday afternoon, everybody, and continue keeping it sports with M3.
I'll be back.
You know, our jobs occupy more than half our waking hours. Shouldn't we be doing something we love? Call Connecticut School of Broadcasting at 1-800-TV-RADIO or log on to gocsb.com. Since 1964, Connecticut School of Broadcasting, with a network of 12 campuses from Massachusetts to Miami, has helped place thousands of grads as DJs, sportscasters, entertainment reporters, behind the scenes in audio and video production, every aspect of the broadcast media. Connecticut School of Broadcasting has trained men and women of all ages and backgrounds in a matter of months, not years. Learn by doing from area radio and TV pros. Call 1-800-TV-RADIO or log on to gocsb.com. Remember, it's never too late to love what you do. Day and evening classes begin soon. Get trained. Get connected now.
Welcome back to Keeping the Sports with M3. Hope you're all enjoying your Monday afternoon. My afternoon will soon turn into night as I head up to MetLife Stadium to hopefully enjoy Browns-Jets tonight on Monday Night Football. But before we get to that, of course, I want to recap, go through some of the action from Sunday afternoon's slate, week 2 of the National Football League. We'll start off with the 1 o'clock games and then go in order, do the 4 o'clock games and Sunday Night Football in the next segment. But the 49ers, they got Jimmy Garoppolo back. He's playing well in his first 2 games. They're off to a 2-0 start for the first time since 2012. That was back in the Jim Harbaugh, Colin Kaepernick era, where they went to the consecutive NFC Championship games, as well as the Super Bowl matchup with the Baltimore Ravens. And as I said, I've always been highly critical of Jimmy Garoppolo because he's got the ridiculous nickname of Jimmy G. He hasn't played the length of a full season in the NFL yet. Yet he's paid over $100 million. But hey, so far so good. 2-0 is 2-0. It doesn't matter how you get it done. Just get it done. That's all. That's all I view it as. Unless you're, a glaring weak spot on the team, which he hasn't been so far, it doesn't matter how you get the wins to me. As I said, by hook or by crook. The Lions survived an early bad start, especially by Matthew Stafford, who threw 2 interceptions, both coming in the third quarter, to survive the Los Angeles Chargers for a nice little tidy 13-10 victory yesterday, especially with the fact that Darius Slay was getting picked apart by Keenan Allen for most of the game, allowed 8 catches for around 100 yards in this matchup. But when the moment needed him to, he was there, made the clutch play. When Phillip Rivers tried to force it down the field, when the Chargers were in position to get a game-tying 45-yard field goal with a minute to go, he tried to force it down the field to Keenan Allen, where Darius Slay picked it off to essentially lock down the game and get the Lions their first victory of the season. Packers are off to a 2-0 start after a 21-16 victory against the Vikings yesterday. Now, Rodgers got off to a quick start with 2 touchdowns in the first quarter. They actually led this game 21-0 in the early stages of the second quarter, but Vikings started to work their way back. And although the Packers were still limited on offense here, still coming along slowly, because this really feels like preseason for the Packers. This really feels like the spot for them where they're still trying to get into the season, because remember, Rodgers didn't play at all in the preseason, so they're still going to have these miscues on offense, especially when they have a new head coach who's trying to install his offensive system and his offensive game plan in for this team. It's going to happen for them. But what helped them is the fact that their defense was able to hold stern there. Although the Packers didn't score again after the 21-0 early lead, they were able to hold the Vikings to only 16 points and take advantage of some of their miscues. And the Vikings made 100 yards worth of penalties yesterday, turned the ball over 4 times, 2 interceptions by Cousins, a fumble by Diggs at the end when they were going for the lateral play, hoping for their own version of the Music City Miracle, as well as their kicker, Dan Bailey, missed a field goal and an extra point. And as we've seen in this league, special teams can kill you. Now, speaking of special teams, I mentioned this earlier about a possible retirement yesterday. The story should be the Colts picking up a road victory against the Tennessee Titans 19-17, taking advantage of the miscues by Marcus Mariota and the fact that he only went 1 for 10 on third down. But what's the story coming out of Indy today is the possible retirement of Adam Vinatieri, because Vinatieri's gotten off to a slow start on this season. He missed 2 extra points attempts yesterday. He went 1 for 3 from field goal range last week and missed an extra point. No, I can't blame him if he chooses to retire. This man, he's 44, 45 years old. He's done it all. He's won 4 Super Bowl titles in his career. He's could arguably go down as the greatest place kicker in the history of this league, has had so many clutch kicks over the years. He's allowed to call his own shot on this one. So if he wants to retire today, I know he's having a press conference today. I'm not sure the results on that yet, or if he's spoken to the media in Indy yet, but if Vinatieri wants to retire, call it a career, God bless him, because he's absolutely earned that right to call his own shots on his career. Mentioned earlier that the Patriots shut out the Dolphins yesterday. Not much you could say when you just have an ass kicking like this. 43-0 down in Miami. Brady, it was kind of a ho-hum performance by him and seemed like more of a scrimmage at times, considering the fact that he completed passes to 7 different receivers and targeted Brown 8 times. You can have your own opinion on whether or not you think he should have been playing. I know I had my own thoughts, opinions on that, and thought that the league should have put him on the commissioner's exempt list, but I understand they have an investigation that they want to do. But as I said, Brady completed passes to 7 different receivers, didn't make anybody his primary target on Sunday afternoon. The big question I have here, and involves the Miami Dolphins, is, the Dolphins, I actually think they tried yesterday. That's the sad part of that. Last week, when they got blown out in their home opener 59-10, They gave no effort, and you can't blame them. I didn't blame them at all because the organization, the general manager, head coach, and owner, while they'll say something different, they gave up on the season before things even got started, before a regular season game even got played. So how could I blame the players for not having any enthusiasm? I mean, hell, even in the last week, you see Minka Fitzpatrick looking to get traded, looking to get out of there, and he's only a second-year player. So, I actually thought they gave an effort even in getting shut out yesterday because they didn't give up damn near 600 yards. My problem is, why the hell is Ryan Fitzpatrick playing? Listen, my best friend's dad, the great Joe Cooney, explained this to me about a week and a half ago, telling me about their daunting early schedule, the first 4 games before they have a bye. And I get it. But Ryan Fitzpatrick, I talked about earlier with Eli Manning being a stabilizer. Ryan Fitzpatrick is, pretty much that. He's a stabilizer. He's a guy you just put out there to start unless you have a better option, unless you're on a losing team. And that's what the Dolphins are going to be. They've stockpiled themselves with draft picks this year. How the hell you make the trade on the second day of the draft for Josh Rosen? Why is he not playing? Right? I understand the schedule's difficult early on, but every game's difficult. There's no gimmies. There's no easy games in the schedule. Anything can happen on any given Sunday. And no matter how difficult the schedule may be early on, that's where you really learn about a player. That's where you really learn about their true grit, their true determination, their true toughness, about what kind of player that person is. When they go up against the odds, when they go and have to face some scrutiny, when they have to face some hardship, how do they overcome that? And wouldn't it be better to get those licks in now, see how Josh Rosen can overcome that, rather than just sticking Ryan Fitzpatrick out there? Plus, with the fact that you have 2 number 1 draft picks next year, we all know you're going to be looking to try to possibly get a quarterback. Wouldn't you rather see if Josh Rosen can be that guy long term, so then you could use those draft picks in other areas to build around him, rather than trying to figure out your place in the draft to get Tua or Fromm or Herbert? I don't know. Maybe I'm the idiot in the room. It just makes too much sense to me. Seahawks go 2-0 with a 28-26 victory in Pittsburgh against the Steelers. Wilson threw for 300 yards, 3 touchdowns. But the real story here is not the Seahawks and all their penalties or fumbling the ball twice. It's what's going on the other side of the field. The Steelers off to an 0-2 start. They were a mess last week in New England when they got blown out, and now they lose their home opener, and now their season is in complete disarray with the fact that not only did they lose James Conner to a knee injury, it was announced about 3 hours ago that Ben Roethlisberger is out for the season. He will have elbow surgery later this week. And now you're going to be relying on a young kid to come in there and play the quarterback position for you. And I know the kid played well yesterday, that they drafted out of Oklahoma State a couple of years ago. Why am I having a hard time with names today? I'm drawing a blank on some of this crap. But without Ben, think about it. You're without the 3 killer bees now. You lost Le'Veon Bell, who sat out last year and is now with the Jets. You traded away Antonio Brown. Ben is now out. Now you're going to be entrusting a young quarterback who is essentially, by all standards here, a rookie quarterback in Mason Rudolph, thank you very much, who's getting his first real opportunity, his first real shot at being a starter in this league. And he's going to have to do it on the road starting next Sunday afternoon against a 49ers team who's gotten off to a good start on the season, has gone 2-0 on the road. Their crowd's going to be all jacked up for their home opener with the way their young quarterback has come back from ACL surgery and played very well to start the year. Tough spot for him, but hey, the Steelers, they're one of those franchises that every once in a while, I think we could say they're due to have a bad year. You don't want to see Ben get hurt. You don't want to see anyone miss time, but it's the Steelers. They've won a lot over the history of their franchise. I don't think anyone's going to be shedding tears for them. Cowboys also improved to 2-0. Dak Prescott continues to make a believer out of myself and all the non-believers who continue to say that he's just a babysitter in there at quarterback, that he's just a system guy and relies on the weapons around him. Threw for almost 270 yards yesterday, only had 4 incompletions, 3 touchdowns. He's off to a rate of 7 touchdowns, 1 interception, even ran the ball 69 yards, and Zeke got more in the mix yesterday, as you knew he would, because, like I said with the Packers, for Zeke, this is his training camp. This is his preseason, and, they're slowly but surely building him along. Another exciting day for Lamar Jackson as he goes to 2-0, ran the ball for 120 yards yesterday, and this is why they were able to halt the Cardinals' comeback. The Cardinals stayed in this game throughout, and you saw Kyler Murray, just as he did last week, get off to a slow start, but in the second half was able to come on like gangbuster and get this team back in the game, get them within 1 score. Problem is, they didn't have the ball a lot. The Ravens had the ball for 37 minutes compared to the Cardinals for 22, and that's because they were able to run the ball a lot with Lamar Jackson and take time off the clock. So was able to dominate the time of possession there and slow a young team looking for their first victory on the season. And then you have the Texans and the Jaguars. The Texans, who I picked in the survivor pool this week, and I am very thankful for Doug Marrone's boneheaded decision at the end of the game. Because here you have this young kid, Gardner Minshew the third, playing pretty well against a Texans team that was kind of on a little bit of a hangover from last Monday night's loss to the Saints. Wasn't as strong offensively. Some of that you got to credit to the Jaguars defense when Jalen Ramsey wasn't getting into a fight with Marrone on the sidelines. But sometimes you had Deshaun missing some open spots. And, in the last minute of the game, the Jaguars get what should have been the game-tying touchdown. You think, they'll kick the extra point, go to overtime. The defense is playing well. Maybe get a shot at the upset here on the road. But no, they decide to go for a 2-point conversion and hand the ball to Leonard Fournette just to be a battering ram right up the middle. Fournette had seemingly done nothing all game long. I mean, he carried the ball 15 yards for 15 times, for 47 yards, averaged only about 3 yards a carry, and got stopped at the goal line by Justin Reed to preserve a 13-12 victory for the Houston Texans. I mean, you saw a lot of cases where teams were going for 2-point conversions yesterday, but of all of them, this is the one that made the least amount of sense of them. All right, going to take a quick break here. Come back on the other side, go over the 4 o'clock games and Sunday Night Football. Still going to get to some baseball before the end of the program here. Continue keeping it sports with M3.
I'll be back.
It's been 48 years. Connecticut School of Broadcasting has helped place thousands of people, just like you, in exciting careers in radio, television, and the new media. At Connecticut School of Broadcasting, our hands-on approach is different. It's designed to have you spend less time in the classroom and more time in the studios. From the first day, you'll work with state-of-the-art equipment. Learn by doing from our team of industry professionals who come from their studios to ours. The best part about it, you'll learn it all in a matter of months, not years. Connecticut School of Broadcasting has a network of 12 campuses from Massachusetts to Miami. Remember, it's never too late to love what you do. So do what I did. Call 1-800-TV-RADIO. Step into the fast-paced world of the broadcast media. Day and evening classes begin soon. Connecticut School of Broadcasting. Get trained and get connected now. Call 1-800-TV-RADIO or log on to gocsb.com. It's been 48 years.
Welcome back to Keeping It Sports with M3. I'm sorry for the little bit. If you're watching live, I'm sorry for the little bit of delay there. I just found out some heartbreaking personal news. I'll keep that to myself for now on what that news is. But all I will say is, God bless you, Lucky. And thank God for this podcast. To do something to keep my mind off of this for the afternoon. As I mentioned earlier, Ben Roethlisberger wasn't the only one to have a potential season-defining injury for a franchise yesterday. His season is over, but the Saints were dealt a pretty significant blow yesterday afternoon when 2 series into the game, Drew Brees left with a thumb injury. He was on a pass. His hand came forward and connected with Aaron Donald's helmet, and he tore ligament in his throwing hand. and now is out for anywhere from 4 to 6 weeks after having a surgery this week. And it'll be up to Teddy Bridgewater to hold down the fort and at least keep the Saints afloat while he's gone. But problem yesterday, biggest problem you have yesterday is once again the referees screwed over the New Orleans Saints. If you just landed on this planet back at the end of January, you would see that the referees might have it out for the Saints if you're new to football. Because for the third real game that the Saints have played in a row, second time against the Rams, the referees made a call that changed the game here. When in the second quarter, still got a 3-all ball game here. The defenses are pretty much holding serve of this game. And in the Saints territory, the Saints get to Goff as he's about to release the football. Cam Jordan picks up the football on what looks like a fumble recovery and runs 80 yards down the field. Problem here is the referees blow the whistle saying it's an incomplete pass and that the play is dead there. You go to replay, you see, oh, it's a fumble. They give the ball to the Saints, but unfortunately, because they blew the play dead there, originally calling it an incomplete pass, the Saints only get the ball on, what was it, the 25, 30-yard line. Just, unbelievable. How many times, I don't think there's some kind of league mandate out directed toward the Saints with, how sometimes Sean Payton can get on the referees pretty hard. But 3 games in a row, they almost screwed them last week in the Monday Night Football matchup against the Texans. And now this play. Cam Jordan at least took it in stride when he said, damn, you mean I ran 80 yards for no reason? But you could see Sean Payton, him screaming at the officials like, oh, this is happening again. This nonsense we got to deal with once again here. And, not to say that the Saints would have won this game, would have held on to the lead there, because eventually in the second half, Jared Goff got going here with Cooper Kupp as his main target. But still, how many times are you gonna let this happen? The officials, that there are too many bad officials in sports that continue to screw this stuff up, and this was just further proof of it yesterday. Are we starting to take Patrick Mahomes for granted? It feels like that, because all of the talk after yesterday's 28-10 victory over the Raiders was a ho-hum performance. That was no sweat, no big deal by Mahomes and company when he threw for 443 yards, 4 touchdowns, all 4 of which came in the second quarter after they were trailing 10-0 against the Raiders. Quite possibly the last time they will be playing the Raiders in Oakland, the last time that long-storied rivalry will face off in the black hole there. It seems like every week there's a different target for him that's, the star of the game. They played without Tyreek Hill yesterday. Well, hey, Demarcus Robinson, come on down. It was his day yesterday with 6 catches for $170 and 2 touchdowns. Next week it will be Travis Kelce, who had 100 yards in his own right yesterday and a touchdown. But Mahomes, it's crazy. His ability, the arm strength he has, his mobility in the pocket, and all the weapons you put around him, it's almost unfair. It makes you wonder, are we bound to head for another Chiefs Patriots AFC title game? If so, sign me up, because this team right now looks like the only team in the AFC that could stand toe-to-toe with the Pats. The Bears, I was speaking earlier about teams going for 2-point conversions. Well, they overcame a 2-point conversion yesterday, coming back to win 16-14. What was weird about this is Vic Fangio, after the touchdown catch by Emmanuel Sanders with 37 seconds to go, decides, let's go for 2. Let's try and win this here, because Mitch Trubisky just looked like a fish out of water for the most part yesterday. The Bears were winning most of the game despite Trubisky, not because of him. So they complete the 2-point conversion, take a 14-13 lead. The Bears are a little bit fortunate because you get the roughing the passing penalty on called against Chubb when he hit Trubisky on the last drive, and then he completes that 25-yard pass down the field to Allen Robinson, in which everyone was unsure whether the game was over or not. The officials come on and say there's still 1 second left on the clock after the catch, because the Bears used their final timeout, allowed enough time for Eddie Pinheiro to hit a 53-yard game-winning field goal as the clock is expiring. So for, another day, a field goal kicker is the hero in Chicago. You're not complaining about special teams there in the Windy City, at least for this week. And then on Sunday Night Football last night, this game between the Falcons and the Eagles just was weird on so many levels. First off, you have both these quarterbacks turning the ball over left and right. Matt Ryan throws 3 interceptions. Carson Wentz throws 2. You have a lot of aggressiveness by the Eagles defense, with Jim Schwartz seemingly blitzing on every play, not leaving a safety back there, and that's what ended up catching them in the end when Julio Jones, who they were playing single coverage on him, surprisingly for most of the night, is able to get a block, comes around a screen, and takes off for 54 yards down the field at ridiculous 20 miles per hour for the game-winning touchdown with 2 minutes to go. And I thought the Eagles were actually going to come back and win this on the final drive. There was a lot of kookiness on that drive when you see Carson Wentz on a 4th and 14 just chuck the ball up into the air to Nelson Aguilar, who's got 3 defenders around him, and somehow he comes down with this. Then on 4th and 8 from in the red zone, he throws a 7-yard pass to Zach Ertz, who his forward progress was stopped just before the line to gain and came within inches of forcing a first down to continue this game. But hey, give the Falcons defense credit on that for surviving that and surviving an Eagles offense that seemingly kept on churning even with all the issues they dealt with throughout this game. Deshaun Jackson left with a groin injury. Alshon Jeffries left with a calf injury. Hell, even Carson Wentz left for a little bit due to a concussion protocol check and went under the tent there. So the Eagles, they seemingly were a mass unit during this play. And during that final drive, you had dueling injuries on the Eagles and the Falcons, and when that happens, team has to use a timeout in the final 2 minutes, or they risk a 10-second runoff. So the Falcons had to call a timeout on their end. The Eagles were actually called for a 4th timeout. If there would have been a a second scenario like that happening for a fifth timeout, they would have been docked a 5-yard penalty. So this game just all the way around was a weird one, but a much needed victory for the Falcons to get on the board there. But hey, with the injury news to Drew Brees, with how bad Cam Newton played on Thursday Night Football, and the fact they're 0-2 as well, this looks like it could be the Falcons' division for the taking. And that NFC South is always up in the air year to year. You never know what to expect out of those teams. And, the Buccaneers, they're off to a 1-1 start, but got to see a little bit more out of them. Got to see Jameis Winston play well on a consistent level before I can look at them and say they're the threat to the Falcons winning that division this year. All right, I'm going to go take a break. Hopefully not shed too many more tears during said commercial break. But when I come back, I'll get to the baseball, close things up for Keeping It Sports with M3.
I'll be back.
Connecticut School of Broadcasting founder Dick Robinson.
The media business has changed a lot since we opened our doors in 1964. Now media content is everywhere, on air, online, on the go. More than ever, companies are looking for people to help drive this new media.
At Connecticut School of Broadcasting, you'll get hands-on training on the latest software and equipment in a matter of months, not years. Connecticut School of Broadcasting has placed thousands of grads in broadcast media careers.
It's all about versatility. You see, at a radio station, if you also know how to shoot, edit, and post videos, you become a pretty hot commodity. That's the training you get at Connecticut School of Broadcasting.
Connecticut School of Broadcasting, with locations up and down the East Coast, from Massachusetts to Miami. Call 1-800-TV-RADIO or log on to gocsb.com. Connecticut School of Broadcasting, the nation's oldest and largest group of broadcast media schools, redefining training in radio, TV, and new media. Get trained. Get connected. 1-800-TV-RADIO.
Welcome back to Keeping It Sports with M3. A couple more minutes to play with here, but still got a few more things to talk about. Reminder, tell your friends about where you can find this podcast each and every single week through facebook.com/keepingitsports with M3, as well as on Twitter at Keeping It Sports. And hey, if you're ever happen to be on Facebook on Monday afternoons between 2:30 and 4 o'clock when I'm recording this, and you're watching the live version, feel like calling in, be sure to do so at the call-in number 856-330-4749. Who knows? Maybe someday we'll actually get someone to call in on this. I doubt it, but hey, a guy can dream, can he? Anyway, I'll go turn attention to baseball, where I mentioned this 2 weeks ago. The three things that I'm looking out for over this last couple of weeks of the season are the 2 wild card races and the best overall record, because there were some division chases, but after this weekend with the Twins taking 2 out of 3 against the Cleveland Indians, the Indians fall to 4.5 behind the Twins in the AL Central. I think that division's pretty much a wrap. The Twins, even with losing Michael Pineda to a PED suspension, he's out for the remainder of this year and the start of next season, and won't be part of their any potential postseason run. They seemingly have this on good grip with the last 2 weeks of the season here. you look at the NL wildcard situation. We'll start there. Right now, I'm looking at this and saying you have 4 teams for those 2 spots. Because I'm going to cut out the Philadelphia Phillies here. They're 4 games back, 4.5 games back. They lost 2 over the weekend to the Red Sox after having a weird off day on Friday. Listen to their final 14 games of the season. They got 3 against the Braves in Atlanta, 3 in Cleveland against the Indians. Then they go to Washington for a 5-game set against the Nationals before coming home to play the Marlins. So they're on an 11-game road trip before they come back to close out that season. I think by the time, with all the issues they've had, with losing Jake Arrieta, with how hot and cold Bryce Harper's been this season, the fact that they have had guys in their bullpen on and off the IL all year long, to me, it might be a little too much for the Phillies. And I think by the time they come home for that final weekend of the season on September 27th to play the Marlins, they're probably going to be eliminated. I'm also eliminating the Diamondbacks, who after this week fell to 5.5 games back of the second wild card, thanks to get a 4-game series in Queens against the Mets, in which they were swept out of the building. And 3 of the 4 games, they weren't even competitive in them. You can't come into Citi Field, play one of your closest competitors for a wild card spot, and have me get swept in those games and have me thinking you're still alive, and then go to Cincinnati and lose 2 out of 3 to the Reds. So the Diamondbacks are done. I compliment Torey Lovullo, how he kept this team together after, offseason. They trade their best player in Paul Goldschmidt. They trade their ace starter in Zach Greinke at the trade deadline, and he kept them in this race all the way to the end. But they're done. They're 5.5 back. We can stop talking about them. So we got 4 teams for those last 2 spots. You got the Nationals, who are 1.5 up for the number 1 spot. You got the Cubs. A game behind the Cubs is the Brewers. And I'll be nice and I'll include the Mets for another week, although this past weekend could have been a death nail for them. I mean, the only reason I don't completely exclude the Mets, even though they're 4 games back and a half game up on the Phillies, is because every time I'm ready to write them off, they start to play well. And people write them off the fact that they lost last night at Sunday Night Baseball. Their 2 best relievers, Lugo and Wilson, looked gassed. They blew the game in the 8th and 9th inning. And now they're flying to Colorado to play the Rockies tonight. A quick turnaround after playing Sunday Night Baseball. And now you got to go from Queens, New York, out to Denver, Colorado. But the Mets have been resilient this year. Problem is, though, you look at the team, what was the 3 hottest hitters a couple weeks ago have quickly cooled off. Alonso was on a huge slump coming in to this weekend. Went like 0 for 20 with about 10 strikeouts. McNeil's cooled off. Rosario has cooled off. You got the nonsense with Noah Syndergaard complaining about the catcher in Ramos, the one to cool off, not Rosario. He's one of the only ones actually hitting right now. But you got Syndergaard complaining about who's catching him. Syndergaard's a total diva, and I think he'll be off the Mets this offseason anyway. I mean, if they were smart, they'd re-sign Zach Wheeler, trade Noah Syndergaard to the Padres, trying to get a whole bunch of prospects or players that could be ready to help them next year, and put Seth Lugo back in the starting rotation, because he's a guy that looks like could be a starter long term. But the problem the Mets are going to run into down the stretch here is the schedule. Yeah, the schedule looks fairly workable these last 13 games. 3 at the Rockies, 3 at the Reds, 4 against the Marlins, and 3 against the Braves. But I mentioned the issues with the bullpen, with Lugo and Wheeler. Lugo and Wilson being gassed and them being the only trustworthy guys out of that pen. And you look at the Cubs and Brewers schedules, the Cubs will play the Cardinals 7 times in their final 10 games. The Brewers play the Padres, the Reds, and the Rockies, but also both of them play the Pirates. And the Pirates have flat out given up on this season. The Pirates, you look at over the weekend, they lost 17-8, 14-1, and 16-6 in Wrigley to the Cubs. They're not trying anymore. They've given up. They've quit on the season there. They're more concerned about either fighting the Cincinnati Reds or fighting each other. So the fact that each of those teams plays the Pirates 3 times gives them 3 wins right there. And to me, the Mets, if they were going to be able to pull this off, would essentially have to win out. And with the fact that the young players have gone cold all of a sudden, and their weakness throughout that bullpen, the fact you can't go to Lugo and Wilson every night, and this isn't like it was in the 50s where you're getting complete games every night, I just don't see how they can do this. Plus, you're going to have that roadblock in the last weekend of the season with the Braves playing them in Citi Field. And if they have a chance to knock off the Mets, they're going to do so. They're going to try and eliminate the New York Mets because they don't want to see that pitching staff potentially get into the postseason. The Dodgers were doing the same thing over the weekend. That's why you didn't, outside of Justin Turner resting due to injury, you didn't see them pulling any of their guys. You didn't see them treating this as off days. They wanted to win so they could knock the Mets out. And the other thing you got to throw in the mix here when it comes to this wild card is the Central's not out of the question yet. The Cardinals are only up 2 games on the Cubs and only 3 on the Brewers. The Cardinals lost 2 out of 3 to the Brewers over the weekend in St. Louis. And of these 3 teams' schedule coming down the stretch here, the Brewers might have the easiest task here. They know that if they just win their games, and that's going to be tough without Yelich there, out for the season with the fracture in his right kneecap. But if they just continue winning games, they can win this division. And because the Cubs and Cardinals play each other 7 times, somebody has to win those games. Someone has to be the victor. There's going to be a winner. There's going to be a loser. If they just win games and let the Cardinals and Cubs beat each other up in Wrigley and in Busch Stadium over the next 2 weekends, they can definitely make a comeback and win that NL Central. So that's going to be fun to watch, the race of the NL Central and how it affects the wild card standings in the National League as well. Now in the American League, we're down to 3 teams. You got Oakland at 90 and 60, the Rays at 89 and 62, a game and a half back of that, and they're a game and a half up on the Indians at an 87 and 63 record. Indians have seemingly slipped back from any chance of catching the Twins in the AL Central. What's interesting with these 3 teams is the Athletics, outside of games against the Royals, they've got nothing but in-division opponents and are pretty much playing the Rangers and the Angels for the last week and a half of the season. So let's include them in the mix right now. Or let's have them locked in right now for 1 spot. That means you got 1 spot for 2 teams, the Rays and the Indians. Both clubs will play a series on the road against a National League club, with the Rays playing the next 2 days in LA against the Dodgers and the Indians. The Indians actually will close up the season 6 games on the road at the Cubs and then at the Nationals. So they'll be without the designated hitter spot and requiring their pitchers to hit for the last week of the season. The thing that helps them, though, is in the last 10 games of the season, 9 games, the Rays will be playing 6 of those games against the Red Sox and Yankees, while in Tampa, those are going to be bona fide Yankees and Red Sox home games because we know those fan bases come down there and sell that out. Plus, you have Snell just coming off the IL after missing over a month due to injury. Glasnow just came off the IL. What are they going to get out of those guys going down the stretch? The Indians, they've essentially secured their rotation and pretty much have come to grips with the fact they're not going to have Corey Kluber for the rest of the way. It's going to be the likes of Bieber, Plesac, Clevenger, those kind of guys that are going to have to bring them back in this. And we'll see if they're up for the task. The final thing that I'm going to be watching for, of course, is best record. And right now, the Yankees and Astros are in a dead heap tie at 98 and 53 with the Dodgers at game behind them. And with the Yankees, it sucked losing to the Blue Jays over the weekend. But the important thing is the cavalry's on the way. I mean, you saw Dylan Betances return yesterday and get 2 strikeouts. Looked very well, very good, even though his velocity was down. Jordan Montgomery made his first appearance in a year and a half coming off of Tommy John surgery. Luis Severino will make his season debut tomorrow. And if I told you back in April that we wouldn't be seeing Severino or Betances until the final 2 weeks of the season, you would have thought the Yankees would be a 500 club. But they have flourished even with the injuries. I mean, you look at, they lost Sanchez and Encarnacion to injuries over the last week in the series in Detroit with Encarnacion and a minor oblique injury and Sanchez re-injuring his groin. Their hope is to get those guys back before the start of the postseason, but it does look like they will be factors for this team in the playoffs. But no matter who's gotten hurt, no matter who's played, the beat keeps rolling on for this team. That's going to be, when it's all said and done, when the story is written on the 2019 Yankees, that's going to be the tale of this season. Overcoming the injuries, the next man up. People saying, oh, this is one injury too many, and they overcame the odds and proved the doubters wrong. But the problem is, as I said, Houston won the season series. They have the tiebreaker here, and their road to the end here is much easier than the Yankees because they're staying in division the last 2 weeks. They're going to be playing games against the Rangers, Angels, Mariners, and Angels. And the Angels, remember, for those 7 games are going to be without Mike Trout. He's out for the rest of the year after the foot injury. So, the fate of the World Series could be decided in these last 2 weeks. Because remember when the Yankees and Astros played in the ALCS 2 years ago? It was home team won all the games. And I do believe that we are going to get Yankees-Astros in the ALCS again. As much credit as I want to give to the Twins, every time they've been in the big spot over the years, it doesn't matter who's on the team, the names, faces change. It's been the same result. And whoever is the wild card team, I can't see them going and winning a 5-game series against one of these teams. I mean, maybe I give a little chance to the Indians with respect to their rotation and how their stars like Lindor are proven in the spot. Unsure if they're getting Ramirez back here along the way, but they've earned that kind of respect. But still, they got young guys in Bieber and Plesac who are pitching in their first pennant race as mainstays in the starting rotation. And you don't know how that is going to affect these kids, but we're going to see. We're going to see in these last 2 weeks how important home field is to these two teams, because I guarantee if you ask any Astro fan, the last thing in the world they would want is a Game 7 in Yankee Stadium knowing that Justin Verlander is unavailable and it's Zach Greinke on the mound, because we've seen the Astros in Yankee Stadium, how terrified they can be unless Justin Verlander is pitching for them. And Zach Greinke, whenever he's been in the big spot over his career, more times than not, he has come up lame. 2 years ago in the wild card game for the Diamondbacks, and then remember back 2015 for the Dodgers in Game 5 of the division series when he lost to DeGrom. I need to see Zach Greinke win in a big spot before I believe that the Astros could survive a 7-game series against the Yankees and prove my belief of a Yankee-Dodger World Series wrong. But hey, I've been wrong before. I'll probably be wrong again. That's what's fun about sports. We make predictions. We hope for them to be right, but we sit back and watch and wait and see if they are going to be true. It's why I always say it's the greatest soap opera on earth. And that, my friends, was Keeping It Sports with M3 from Monday, September 16th, 2019. Everyone, have a great night, and I'll talk to you guys again, same time next week. Peace.
We have to go. Good night, everybody.
I have had enough of you!
Thank you for all the fun. Thank you. Hey, shut up, will ya?
I don't want to see you, I don't want to hear you, and I don't want to smell you. Now leave. I'll be back.